show again. Thank you so much for joining me for another interview. And this time I wanted to talk about the shadow. Mm-hmm. You mentioned it very briefly in our last interview when we talked about numerology and how numerology can help you to find out a lot more about yourself, go even deeper and kind of figure out all those parts of yourself that just sometimes don't make sense. And the reason I wanted to do it is you put up a post probably a couple of months ago now, roughly, about Belle Gibson.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And there's a series on Netflix at the moment in regards to her life and what she has done here in Australia. She's an Australian woman. There's a documentary series as well. When you watch it, you can see that she has a brilliant mind, that she has amazing ideas. And she even went to Apple. Apple was going to put her on the Apple Watch, one of the first times they've ever done that kind of thing. Yeah. So she was launching an app, and it looked amazing. It looked beautiful. It was very well thought out. It had beautiful, delicious foods. And I mean, I don't know a lot about it. I never used the apps. I didn't really know much about her at the time when all of this was happening. But from what I saw, she really she knuckled down and she got into it. And she wanted to create something amazing. And she did.
Yeah.
But she lied about it.
Yes.
She lied about why she was doing it in the first place. She lied about having brain cancer. And she used that lie to launch this app and to launch herself out into that world and to create this thing that she really, really wanted to create. And of course, then that was her downfall, wasn't it?
Yeah.
This other part of herself.
Mm.
And you can see it a lot when you look for it. You can see it in people all around you, how that shadow side of ourselves really can prevent us from living our full potential.
For sure.
And then you see it in a lot of celebrities who end up letting that darkness take them away, and not just, from their potential, but from their life.
Yes. And
it's quite sad to see that this part of us can have such a stronghold. There's such a fight between us. So I wanted to talk to you about it because you would know a lot about those parts of ourselves. So can you explain exactly what the shadow is?
Yes. So there were psychologists ahead of their time.
Yeah.
Quite a long time ago. We're talking, more than 100 years. And there was an understanding that people have light and dark.
Mm.
And even, you go back to the Bible and religion and things like this as well. There's always the good and the evil and all of this. I think when it comes to human beings, we need to acknowledge that in all of us, there's the light and the dark. And a lot of people don't want to acknowledge that.
No.
It's all about this and that.
Yeah.
And because doing the numerology, you see that very clearly, that with every number there is potential. So it's always potential, if you think about it like that, for us to live in our light or to live in our higher vibration is another way of putting it, or to be overtaken by the shadow. And there's lots of theories about why this is so. Is it just human nature? That's how we're created or built. Is it, in the old days, it would be Satan. That would be the shadow, and you go to hell, if you follow the dark. You think about so many movies and books and the light and the dark, that it's just one of those
good versus evil, always.
Good versus evil, all of it in that, in literature, from the beginning of time has been this. Yeah. But if we look at it from a today perspective, I suppose, someone like Belle Gibson and watching that series, Apple Cider Vinegar, and I can't remember if I mentioned this to you last time, but it was me many years ago seeing a biography or reading a biography of her life that had talked about what she was doing subsequent to the bankruptcy and the court proceedings and all of it. And it occurred to me that she hadn't learned one thing at all. Yes. And then she'd gone on, in fact, to repeat it with another group of vulnerable people, which I just found astounding. And when I read her story, I thought, I bet you she's an 11-2 in their dark. And like you said before, with celebrities, because 11-2, in the higher self is the master teacher. You know, the 2 is the cooperative peacemaker. That's the base energy of that particular life path number. The cooperative peacemaker, oh, that sounds good, doesn't it? You know, someone who's here to keep the peace and promote peace and harmony and be the negotiator and all about support and nurturing and kindness and love and all of that. Wow, that's amazing. But even the shadow of the base energy of the 2 can be manipulative, can be jealous, sometimes too. When you read about homicides, you know, that extreme can sometimes be too energy. And when you have the potentiality of the 11, the master teacher or the spiritual messenger, you can see this in a lot of spiritual gurus that, you know, do have many followers and have a message. And then it turns out subsequently they've been sexually abusing their followers or taking advantage. Think about cults, think about religious leaders, think about, you know, yogis. And of course it's not everyone, but it is a common story. You know, we hear this story of leaders turning to the dark. So why is that? And my belief is we're all here to face that in our life. And that's why I find numerology useful, because you can tell by your numbers what is your potentiality of the darkness. So I find it quite a fascinating thing.
That's so fascinating. Absolutely. Now I'm a 4. I can't remember what you said my shadow is. Could you just say what it is, and then we'll kind of go into a discussion about it. So what would be the shadow of the 4?
So the 4, for those that don't know, life path 4 is, you know, there's different descriptions, but we can often call that the dedicated hard worker.
Yes, you know. Very much so.
So the shadow of that, and every number has a few shadows, and because human beings are very complex, you're not just 4. You know, your second most important number, I can't recall, but it might be 7 or something like that, which has its own shadow. So there's a lot of complexity. Right. Okay. So one of the shadows of the 4 is being so black and white in thinking, like very narrow-minded, that one becomes self-righteous and this is right and this is wrong and there's no shades of grey. So that could be seen in, again, it can sometimes be, because 4 can be a leadership number as well. Religious leaders, there's one, I can't think of his name, but who, you know, hell and damnation and hellfire and all this sort of thing. So this is what he'd be preaching. And then because that is so narrow in its thinking, on the side, this priest or preacher was having sex with prostitutes, and it was quite a well-known American one. But it's like, because that is too narrow-minded, the shadow comes out. You know, no one is perfect. No one can be that all the time. And then, so there's obviously a little part of him that was confused and wanted to think outside the box that he had put all of humanity in, and having to be only this way. And so that's one of the shadows of 4, is being so fixated and pedantic in the thinking.
That was my mum's favourite word for me.
Pedantic.
Yes.
That, you know, eventually that fun part of you wants to break out. So remember us talking about forgetting to have fun, forgetting to relax.
Yes.
And when one is so, you know, serious, 4 can be very serious, as you know, Kelly. Yes. Very serious. There's that like harder part of you that does want to break out. So for him, it came out in that extreme. But we're all, it's all on the spectrum, isn't it? Everything really is. So that's one of the things. The other one for 4 is potential control, being a control freak.
No, not that at all.
And it depends on your other numbers and astrology and your human design, but that is the other one. That being so wanting things again to be so this way and that way, that having no shades of grey. No shades of grey is a way to summarise it, I suppose. And if there's no shades of grey, that will come out in some way, shape or form eventually.
Yeah. You mentioned it being confusing. It is very confusing when you do have these two sides of yourself. Really I feel like they're butting heads all the time.
Yes. Particularly with you. Because you've got the 4 and then your next most important number is the 5.
Yeah.
And interestingly enough, speaking to Lee downstairs, and my last client on Saturday was the same. She was 4 and then 5, if I recall.
Yeah.
And it's like that butting of the heads, like the 4 who wants this and the serious and life is supposed to be this way and blah, blah, blah. And the 5 that just wants to, live it up and have fun. Eventually there's going to be something combusting there.
Yeah. That's a great word. It definitely feels like there's, yeah.
So what do we do about it? What do we...
That's the question, isn't it?
Well, for you might remember, one of your life lessons is, like I said, to relax and have fun. And if, Kelly, at some stage of your life you hadn't allowed yourself to do that, that's really the answer. For you, it's just letting go of the little bit of control that wants to be a certain way, this way it has to be, and consciously putting fun and relaxation and enjoyment. And it might be, so just think about, we've just had Easter. Eat the bloody Easter egg. Is it really going to be the end of the world if you really want a caramel Easter egg or whatever it is? Have the Easter egg, and then the shadow won't want to eat the whole carton.
Yeah.
That's just something that just came to me as a potential solution, or so it doesn't come out in a negative way.
Yeah, exactly. It's knowing what you want, kind of feeling your way into it. But then it is that side that kind of comes in and goes, no. So do this, do it this way, do it that way. You can't have it, don't want it. So I guess that was sort of the other question is, how much does the mind play a part in the shadow? Are they one and the same? Are they just connected somehow? Are they just completely in cahoots with wanting you to not be this full potential of greatness rather than the darkness side of yourself?
Yeah, well, it's all theories. So one of the theories is, or my theory is that it plays a massive part. And one way we can figure out what our shadow is to listen to that mind voice, that self-sabotaging voice. What does yours say? Does it say you're stupid, you're not worthy, you're ugly, you're not loved? Or in there's going to be something, something that will help you determine maybe what that is, and then determining what you can do about it. But another school of thought is anything in the dark or the shadow is negative entities. What are negative entities? Well, that can be negative energy. It can be a thought that we project out there so much that it becomes real on some level, like a vibration. And this can be hard for people to get their head around. A thought can become, what are you talking about? But you put so much energy, like if that little girl had a thought at 3 years old that she was unlovable, then it can become real. And there's a whole lot of spiritual laws that sort of go into how that might work. And so it becomes a thought form. And that thought form takes on energy, takes on reality in your life. So that's, and one way of thinking about it. And then another way of thinking about it is actual non-physical negativity or entities. So, Christianity might call that demonic. It might be Lucifer or Satan or something like that. It might be another school of thought, it's aliens. but negative aliens. And, that's a whole nother path to go down that can attach to negativity. So one example is the shadow of 5 energy, so the life path 5 is the freedom-loving adventurer. So think about you, the dedicated hard worker. Ooh, but there's a part of Kelly that wants to just break out and have a bit of fun and just enjoy what you're doing. So the shadow of the freedom-loving adventurer is the addict that wants so much freedom. So the example I often give is the shadow of 5 would be not using freedom in a good way. The backpacker that literally throws on the backpack, travels around the world with no responsibility, because one of the shadows of 5 energy is lack of commitment, no planning, no responsibility. And so this backpacker has a girl in every port, a family in every port, but could not care less about their well-being. They'll spend some time there, see ya, no responsibility, and then moves on. That would be an extreme shadow of 5 energy. And then the addict is, again, another layer to that, where they cannot be in moderation. Everything has to be done, whether it's good or bad, to an extreme level. So then you get gambling, you get porn addiction, you get online shopping addiction,
food addiction,
alcoholism, gambling, all of it is an extreme of that behaviour. And there's reasons for it. It can be, part of 5 energy is being very easily bored, like ADHD type personality, distractibility. What can I do that's not, the work that I have to in front of me? So that's another example of shadow, and how negativity or a negative entity could get attached to that is one of the theories is these negative beings are attracted to things like places like taverns, pubs, where people might be shooting up or whatever, drug places, party houses, and then the one who's in their shadow and not vibrating high attaches to that energy. And then the person has to carry around that negativity. That's another form of shadow, literally a shadow over your shoulder. And it's one explanation also for mental health, or some mental health issues, is having literally a negative entity in your field, a shadow. So it can get very interesting and very heavy as well.
It's very complex, isn't it? Like you think it's just nice and easy, come and live a life, but you've got all of these things that are such a push and pull all the time. And the one thing that can help all of that is to really just go deep and to listen to that loving part of yourself. That can help, but even that sometimes I find for myself is that I know what I'm supposed to do, and I've learned so much, but yet this part of me just keeps
wanting to rear its ugly head. Well, just thinking about Mel Gibson, one of the shadows of 2 energy is, and 11-2 in particular, is lack of self-love. Like that's really, from my point of view, not knowing this person, where everything started for her, because there was trauma, there was stuff in her energy field that made her feel unlovable. So she wanted the followers, she wanted that love, and just went about it in a very, successful for some time, not such a great way. But if she maybe knew that lack of self-love was at the base of her wound, then she may have been able to do something about it. And then with the 11, it's inferiority complex, not, this great fear of criticism and people not liking her. Like that's a massive part of it as well. And so if she had maybe gone into therapy, that would have been one way that it could have been resolved in her. So there's many ways to attack that shadow. Sometimes it can be a spiritual experience, can lift you from seeing, oh gosh, that's not really me, it's just this part of me that's trying to bring me down, and then get the strength to do something about it. So for some people that's psychedelics, or different plant medicine, that type of thing can help them with their shadow. Others, it will bring them down, if they're not, if their vibration is very low, then it may not help at all. It may just be so discomforting and mind-blowing that it's not such a great thing. For some people, past life regression is a fabulous way to see who they were before and how they may have carried that into this life. So that's another method. For some people, just seeing a standard psychologist, for others, more spiritual soul counselling is the way to go. Self-work, is always fabulous. And always having hope, I think. So even though it might have been, how old are you, how many years you might be working on yourself, when you have hope that and understanding that we're all here on a spiritual journey. And if I recall, one of your massive lessons, if you don't mind me saying, was do not give up. Was that one of your ones?
Yeah.
So one of your lessons with that and fighting that shadow is you, Kelly, are not allowed to throw up your arms and no, it's all too hard. And there would have been, as because 4 energy is often challenged. Life can feel like one obstacle after another. Part of what your soul chose in this life is to keep going.
Yeah, and I feel that deeply. I do feel this determination to never give up. As much as I want to, every single day, I'm just like, I just can't do it anymore. Like it gets too hard sometimes.
It's seeing that light, seeing the light at the end of the tunnel is your way forward. With that 4 energy. For someone else, it can be different. It can be different what they're moving from the shadow to the light might look like for them. And that's why I find numerology interesting, because you can figure out what that shadow might be. So for 1, for example, life path 1, the shadow there is being too bossy, and it's with a couple of the numbers. Sometimes 4 energy can be there as well. But authoritarian, aggressive, abrupt speaking and self-centeredness is the shadow of 1 energy, where it's all about me, and they have no thought for anyone else and how they might come across and anyone else's needs and feeling. It's like that dictatorship. It's a typical dictator would be 1 narcissist, type energy as well. So this is useful, but it's not for everyone, as we know. This sort of work. Some people will never get to really look at that shadow. They'll be consumed by their shadow, like narcissists often are. They will never, there's no point in therapy for a narcissist, or the vast majority, because they don't think they need it, so they're never going to go.
We see that a lot lately, especially, celebrities kind of the one to draw from, because there's a lot of documentaries that people make about it and shows, and we can see that they have such wonderful ideas about life and what they want. And, even for myself, I think, how can this asshole become so successful? And I feel like I'm struggling over here to make it and to do better and to feel better and to actually not be an asshole. And do wonderful things in the world. Like, how do they get there and then I can't? And then they have their downfall, though.
Exactly. So that's the other way of thinking about it, is how we measure success. Because society measures success through fame, the celebrity, through money, through having things. And if we fall into that trap, which is the trap of 8 energy, so if you have an 8 karmic lesson, that will often come up, an 8 challenge, I can't remember if you do, but it's a very common one in Western society. All about the money trap and image and, all of that, and celebrity being the ultimate of what we strive to be. And then, but not understanding the price that celebrity has to pay for being that. And would you really want to be that famous and having people?
No, definitely not.
Honestly, that's what a way to live, So that's another way of not really seeing that part of it as well. And so for you, it might be letting go of, and it's, most people like this, of the ideal of being that, because it actually is probably not what you want to be at all.
Yeah.
And just finding another definition of success.
Yeah, exactly. And that's, I've seen quite a few shows of that kind of thing where people do well and then they have their downfall. My mind goes a bit crazy with that. But I do realise that success is different for everyone. But for me, it wasn't necessarily the success of having a hell of a lot of money, of being famous and having all the things.
Yeah.
It was just them doing something that they really wanted to do.
I see.
That side of it. I think,
So
I'm really trying to do this thing that I want to do, and it just,
what do you feel is beneath that? Do you feel that's part of your shadow, or do you feel there's something more there?
In that thinking?
Yeah, because it's good that you've got to, and that's really important, that you get to what do you value.
Yeah.
And for some people, it's valuing getting the message out there. Is the value, I just want to help people. Is that the value? And so what does it matter if you help one person, 3 people, or 1 million?
Yeah, I guess the ego does kind of come out in that regard.
Yeah.
And you're like,
and the, ego
the numbers aren't what they should be. This
That's
isn't
the
what
ego.
it should be, and that's not what it should be. So it is having to take that step back and go, okay, that's just one part of it.
Absolutely. I think
What's
go back
the
to
other
value.
part of it?
And if you go back to value, and funnily enough, I was just speaking to someone about this the other day who can't stand social media, never into that sort of stuff. She's written a book and she's now trying to revive her business. And everyone's telling her, well, you have to be on social media, you've got to do this and that. And she's like, oh, I really don't want to do that. But she's found a way to do it that doesn't compromise herself.
Okay.
And I admire that greatly. If someone can do that without compromising themselves, I think is absolutely amazing. And I wonder, how many of those celebrities have fully compromised themselves. Think about Justin Bieber, think about people like that. Oh my God, the price that they've had to pay, that to me is not worth it at all. And it's because the ego was stroked and, they had negative influence. So just look at what is that little ego voice that might be the shadow speaking. And what is the shadow actually saying? Unless I get this, then I'm not good enough. And that would be the thing to work for.
I think that is.
It's not actually true.
Definitely. Yeah. We put a lot of our self-worth on what is happening out here.
Correct.
Don't we?
Yep.
If we're not hitting all of the so-called successes that other people have.
Where we should be at this age.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And then that's fear of missing out and all that sort of thing. So to take a step back from that, I think takes a hell of a lot of bravery and courage. But that would be my answer. Just don't even focus on it. Don't put the energy there, because what you're accidentally then launching is a shadow thought form of I'm not successful. And then that grows wings and that, starts to sabotage.
That's what it becomes rather than what you would actually like.
So it's taking your attention. Don't even look at it. Don't even look at numbers. Don't even look at that. There's maybe another way that's completely different that you maybe haven't even found yet.
Yeah. It's just taking the time to take a step back, see what's going on, see what you're thinking, see what you're feeling, what are you putting out there, and focus. The focus is definitely a big one.
Sure.
Which part of you are you focusing on? Are you focusing more on the shadow and all the sort of negative side of it?
Yeah.
That doesn't feel good.
Yes.
Or are you focusing? But then sometimes I feel like I am really just focusing on the positive, but then you don't get the outcome. So then you go backwards, and then
that spiritual bypassing. If you're not then going to what is the root of it, and to me that's really the key. What is the root of that particular thought? Is it often it is formed in childhood, and it can be often from an adult that has planted a seed in there, and you have to get to what that seed thought is, and then do the work around that seed thought. And the work of Byron Katie, have you heard of Byron Katie?
Yeah.
Her work really helped me quite a few years ago, and I was having trouble with a particular person, and it got me because it makes you answer questions. What is truth? Like, is this actually true? Once, excuse me, you get to that seed thought, and I found that really useful. And it's always a multi-pronged approach. I think with the vast majority of people is what we need. It's not just
definitely.
one way.
No, there is. You know, you do one little thing here, and then that will lead to something else. It always feels like it leads to something else,
but always, Kelly, you're lifting a vibration. Even if sometimes you feel you're going backwards, but remember that's the journey of the four. To climb up that ladder, you know, and then see, oh my God, there's another ladder that's even higher. Can I do it? Can I do it? No, yes, I have to, because I have to persevere.
Yeah.
And even though it might feel like you're going back, you're not going backwards, because if you actually reflect on where you were 2 years ago, where you were 5 years ago, you will see, oh my goodness me, look how far I've come.
And that's something we don't often do, is it? We don't, don't look back, don't look at the past, blah, blah, blah. But sometimes you have to. Sometimes you have to go and visit the past to see how far you've come.
And that's the use of having a journal or some sort of something where you've written down your thoughts. And then you go back and think, oh my God, look where I was back then. And strangely enough, I was having this conversation with another friend yesterday. She, right now, will be on an aeroplane to the UK. And we were reflecting, and this is the use of spiritual partners. So she's one of my spiritual partners. We've known each other, 25 years. And she can help me with stuff that I forget about where I was 5 years ago. She goes, hang on, Emma. But look how far you've come. So it was my turn yesterday to say, hang on, look how far you've come in this area. Last time you were in the UK, how many years ago was that? And look at all the triggers that you had. So people, I think situations are always triggers. So when there's something negative, it's just a trigger for spiritual growth. And you might have, some people have more than their fair share. But when you have more than your fair share, you are here to have a massive leap forward in this life, Kelly. And doing what you're doing, you will have that massive leap forward. If you were sitting at home going, oh, too hard, not growing at all, it's unlikely. But if you're giving it a red hot go, you will. You absolutely will. And so for her, she needed me to reflect and say, oh my God, when you were there 3 years ago, this is what happened with that person, this is where you were, and already can you see how far you've gone? And then she said, oh my God, thank you for reminding me. I had completely forgotten. Because she had a little trigger with her mum and, stuff was, I said, but hang on, look at where you were 3 years ago. So sometimes it's great to have a friend who will call you out when that shadow voice starts to say, oh, but look at where you were 3 years ago. You didn't even have, you weren't even stepping up at all, or whatever it might be for everyone's individual, of course.
Yeah, of course.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we because the mind, of course, likes to hang on and constantly tell the same old story.
Yes, that's its job, though.
Yeah,
it's trying to keep us safe on some level. And sometimes
so we just kind of let it keep going and going, and you sort of, even though you don't always interact, it's like it's there. It's
background
a part
voice.
of you.
Yeah, but you can, and this is where things like hypnotherapy can be amazing. By having a really skilled therapist to catch that voice and to reframe it and challenge it. Look at where it started. And like I said, there's a million modalities. And, part of what I think I'm here to do is to try them all. And there's always learning from every single one of them. And every book you read, you learn something new. And then you might think, oh, but I'm not. But then you reflect back at what you didn't know, 5-10 years ago. Wow, what a journey and how much you have learned. And there's different stages of life as well. Sometimes
yes, of course.
It might be that right now mothering is far more important than self-development, and then you might get frustrated with that. But frustration is part of 4 as well, not quite being where you.
I guess because you can feel. I guess speaking for me personally, you can feel this life that you're meant to live.
Yes.
But yet you're here.
Yeah.
And it's like
but even
the impatience of trying to get to there which is definitely what I've been living in these last few years. Is like, I know it's there.
But see, how I see that completely differently.
Yeah.
Even having that thought, that vision of where you want to be is so far ahead of the vast majority of people, it's not funny.
Oh, okay.
So, but you're not giving yourself credit because 4s tend to be default to glass half empty.
Yes.
And forget that light, you know. But I can see it because I'm objective. I don't have any vested interest.
Yeah.
And to me, just having that vision, oh my goodness me, that's absolutely fabulous, you know. And sometimes, you know, going to a psychic who can also see that vision, knows nothing about you, but the timing might not be right now, you know, in terms of that stuff. You may be just way too young. For that, even though you might feel ancient, you know. Often these things do come later in life.
I think you need to have whatever experience you need to have,
maturity,
and learn
wisdom,
what you need to have
self-confidence
to be able to do it properly.
Absolutely, yeah. And so it's challenging that thought. I believe having a friend, a spiritual partner, someone, and sometimes that has to be a therapist who's going to call you out, is one way of alleviating that shadow. Or just bringing the shadow into the light. And then what I see in most people in soul counselling is we all have triggers. But then, like my friend, she was having, you know, these triggers with what happened with her mum, but she was recovering from it. So rather than that being months or years on end of that trigger still triggering her, I said, hang on, but this time round, you apologise and it only took you 3 days. That is amazing. It was 3 years. Of this, you know.
Okay.
So it's just giving yourself credit for those things that maybe in the past you did not bounce back very quickly at all from the egoic voice, and this time round, you realise that it's only taken you a few days or a few hours, and then it's a few minutes, and then it's catching it out, that shadow, before it even gets its claws into Kelly. And of course, as we've spoken about before, raising your vibration is the antidote to most stuff. It's like the addict who's in that low vibration, they then are prone to the shadow. So as we raise our vibration in all the million ways that we can, then it is less likely that will get its prongs into you.
So being able to raise your vibration, sometimes, again, it's probably just the shitty thoughts in my head, but I'm like, I find that hard, I guess. But I guess I find it more hard to maintain. But I suppose being able to raise your vibration, that's going to be an individual thing as well, isn't it?
Definitely.
Everybody's going to have their own way of being able to do that.
Yeah. But I do believe you need multiple ways. And just trying to do one way, it's not enough, because that might not be available to you. For example, you might love to walk on the beach. That might be your way of raising a vibration. And you wake up, it's a horrible day, you know, you realise you're going to be in peak hour traffic. Well, I can't do that. But have an alternative. So for me, I've got a million ways, you know. So being in nature, but have all sorts of different ways of being in nature. Exercise, don't have one form and then it requires outdoors in a sunny day to raise your vibration. Have 5 different other things that you've explored that don't require that. If you can't do that, give this a go. Listening to frequency music, well, you can do that any old time, you know. It's just remembering to do it. I got this one from a good friend, having a playlist, and I call it my uplifting playlist. So if I'm feeling like that, then I'll put this playlist on that never fails to lift my vibration because of the associations with that, the songs and the music, or it might be the words, or, you know, whatever it might be. Then there's reading, you know, having a stack of books, and you know that whenever you pick up that book, it's going to lift your vibration. For some people it's praying, for some people it's meeting with their friends, and or always having, you know, those really high vibe friends that you know that even a phone call to them is going to lift your vibration. So it's having a multitude of things to choose from, and people to call you out as well. And then writing them all down, having them somewhere in your face. So that you can't do that, but at least you can do this one. And then giving yourself some leeway, because we're all going to have bad days.
Every day is different, isn't it? Things
psychic
happen.
Attacks, you know, psychic attack can come in the middle of the night. And then if you're feeling weak and not great, it can then overcome you for a few days. But if you've practiced the skill of shouting, at the whatever's trying to get onto you, then it's least likely to hang around. And then knowing to sage the next day, that sort of thing as well. So using all the senses, our sight, our smell, our hearing, our psychic senses, having a few tools in each of those particular areas can help greatly.
Absolutely. And that's what I found. I think, I really love doing this. I think, I'm going to do this every day.
Yep.
And then something happens. And
but
then
you're being too pedantic.
Exactly. So that's why I've had to go, every day is different.
Yes.
Different things are going to happen on different days. Yep. My mood might be a bit lower, or my body might be high energy. Exactly. Especially as women, we have that cycle where, we go ups and downs throughout the whole cycle.
And if you're trying to be up, because that's what the world requires of us, you're going to feel much worse about yourself rather than saying, I actually need to go in bed for a week and just feel sorry for myself. That's what I'm going to do,
And that's what I used to do. I would call it my whole. I could go into my whole for weeks and weeks.
Weeks maybe not too great.
One little thing, like I was quite depressed, for many years. But I guess that's one thing I can give myself credit for, is that now something might trigger me, but I know it's triggered me. And maybe it might get me for a little bit, like it might only be maybe a day.
Whereas before,
or a couple of hours where it would have been a week.
Months.
Yeah, exactly. And it could have lasted weeks.
So can you see, from my point of view, as an objective outsider, I see that as amazing progress.
Yeah.
But for you, you can just focus. The mind then goes, but
I'm
still got triggered.
Yes. Exactly. The mind loves to play tricks on us.
And having someone who can see your light as well is, I think, really, really important. Other tools are tarot cards, things like that, angel cards, tuning into your guides, all of those things are amazing tools that you can use at different times.
Yeah, sure. There's so much out there. Just listen to what people are saying, get advice from people, find out whether it's right for you. You don't have to do it just because they say it works for them.
Exactly.
Not everybody thinks works for everybody. So to wrap up, I know this might be a hard one because we're all individual, but is there one nice bit of advice that you can give to everyone as, I guess, a starting point for not living so much in the shadow side or letting it take over?
Gosh. Yes, I suppose my answer would be self-awareness. And that would be numerology, astrology from a skilled astrologer, human design. For some people it's therapy, for some people it's reading a book like the written by psychologists, like How to Do the Work, that sort of stuff. How to Love Yourself, that book, and understanding who you are, like understanding if there's been trauma. Read trauma books like The Body Knows the Score, When the Body Says No, and then you will have epiphanies and go, holy guacamole, and then that can start you on your journey. So I think self-awareness is probably my answer, because if you just got your head in the sand and you don't want to figure anything out, nothing's going to change.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Being able to take those first tentative steps to get to know yourself better.
Yes.
It's going to open up so much, and for you to understand who you are, because everybody, as much as we think we're all the same, we are on a lot of levels, but there's so much nuances and so many differences within each of us that not everything is going to work
for everyone.
I can't get my words out, but not everything is for everybody.
Yes.
Just because it works for one person, it doesn't mean it's going to work for you.
That's right. And that comes back to then trusting your intuition.
Yes.
Because someone might have the most amazing healing with, I don't know, an Indigenous healer or Celtic healer or whatever, and you think, oh my God, they've actually completely changed their life. But for you, because of your past life, because of who you are, because of your numbers, because of your psychology and your makeup, it might not be anything at all.
Yeah.
And then you might get disheartened, but your way might be something completely different. So I think always search and never give up, is good advice for anyone.
Yeah, definitely.
Trust that intuition.
Absolutely.
It might suddenly go, that's what I need to do next.
Yeah, becoming self-aware and following your own guidance and your intuition on what's going to work for you, for whatever it is that you need right now.
Yeah.
So thank you, Emma, once again for
Thank you.
sharing some amazing insights, especially into the shadow side of ourselves, that darker side that can often lead us to places that we don't like going.
Absolutely. Depression, anxiety, just not understanding ourselves, all sorts of mental health, mental illness, in fact.
Those things, the shadow is a part of us, but it doesn't mean that it's all of who we are.
That's right.
We are very varied. There's lots of different parts of us, but the main part of us and who we are meant to be is love. Loving who we are, loving our life, loving everything that is on this planet and in this universe.
And I think particularly for women, that's a biggie. It's a major challenge because, and there's a whole lot of theories as to why, I think it's very complicated. But if your soul chose to be woman in this life, then, you've chosen to do some hard work.
Yes, it is quite tough, but it doesn't have to be as tough. Yeah.
Doing nothing.
You are here, you are living, you may as well
make the most.
Make the most of it. Find a way to make the most of it. Absolutely.
For sure.
So thank you so much. I really appreciate your time today.
Appreciate you. And thanks for listening.